Welcome to Fight News Now Extra. I'm John Pollock with John Ramdeen and Robin Black on location in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan for this Sunday's UFC Fight Night card, and they're going to be joining us from Saskatoon in a few minutes. In the news today, we have an exclusive comment from Bellator President Scott Coker regarding Tamdan McCrory. The UFC seems to have a main event for South Korea, and a surprising announcement from Ronda Rousey. UFC Women's Bantamweight Champion Ronda Rousey appeared on Good Morning America on Friday morning and announced that her next fight would take place on January the 2nd at UFC 195, and it will be against Holly Holm and not Miesha Tate. Holm is an undefeated mixed martial artist who had a record of 33-2-3 during her boxing career, where she competed until 2013. Holm has defeated Raquel Pennington and Marion Renault in 2 UFC fights and gets the unexpected title fight. Ariel Helwani reported that the UFC is looking to put together a welterweight fight between Benson Henderson and Thiago Alves for the promotion's November 28th show in Seoul, South Korea. Henderson moved up to 170 pounds earlier this year, defeating Brandon Thatch, and is opting to stay at the weight for another fight, while Alves is coming off a loss to Carlos Condit from this past May. And earlier this week, Tamdan McCrory returned to the UFC, leaving Bellator and having some critical words for the promotion and the money he was being offered to stay. Fight Network spoke to Bellator President Scott Coker about McCrory's exit and his words on the way out.
I mean, I read that this morning, and I had to really reflect on, what the relationship was with Tamdan, and I called the guys, and we never really had. They had some type of option agreement from the old regime that was still in play, but we never had a contract, and he wanted a certain dollar figure. We didn't think he was worth it, so we passed.
This coming Sunday night, we are live at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, getting you set for all of the action from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, and then at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, the 4 undercard fights from Saskatoon are going to be airing exclusively in Canada on Fight Network. 4 fights coming your way. And now we are going to send you over to Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, where John Ramdeen and Robin Black are going to join us.
Thanks, John. Obviously, we're here in downtown Saskatoon getting ready for UFC Fight Night that goes down at the SaskTel Center on Sunday. Of course, you can catch the prelims live on Fight Network, but we got to talk about this main event. 145 pounds between the Brazilian Charles Oliveira and the very talented Max Holloway. And word is, people are very high on Max Holloway. They look at his striking, they look at his ground game, and above all, maybe his confidence, the most important part of his mixed martial arts game. Why do you think people are so high up on the Hawaiian?
Well, the first thing you got to ask yourself is this just the narrative? Is this just what everyone's saying? Oh, it feels like it's his time. He looks like he's that good, and we all get caught up in a story. Is it just the narrative? Is it just the story? Or is it real? I just did a breakdown just before we came to Saskatoon, and to do that, I have to look at every single one of his fights over and over again. And when I looked in detail at this kid, the thing you realize, in addition to all of his incredible skills, is how much better he gets, not only fight to fight, but sometimes round to round within the fight. He is very special. He is exceptionally good, and he is mentally strong, and he 100% believes he's going to win this fight. But all that really makes us do is stop and go, maybe we should take a close look at Oliveira and see what his story is.
When we were coming from the airport, we got to ride with TriStar coach Firas Zahabi, and we were talking about this main event matchup, and he said one of the downsides of Charles Oliveira is he tends to leave his chin up, exposed, and Max Holloway will clearly gear in on that. Do you anticipate that the goal is beat this guy standing and try to avoid the ground game? Because we've seen Charles Oliveira on the ground. You go back and you look at that fight with Hatsuhioki, who is very accomplished on the ground. It seems like it's not an area that Max Holloway would try to engage, but based on his mentality, it seems that he wants to beat you wherever the fight takes place.
Well, first of all, let's not forget Max Holloway just submitted black belt Cub Swanson, one of the great fighters at 145 pounds. So that's legit. But I think without question, if we're going to really look at Oliveira for a second, while we're getting all caught up in how awesome Max Holloway is, and he is awesome, you got to still look at the opponent. And Oliveira on the ground does believe, has to believe, and I agree with him that he has an edge on the ground. But it is very hard to take Holloway down. Oliveira has some tricks and some trips and some body lock takedowns that can work, but to do that, you got to get in on the hips. And one of the great things about Holloway is his hips are never where you think they're going to be. So it's very hard to take him down. Oliveira is a wizard on the ground, and he's very good everywhere, and he's just a little different than everybody else. But Holloway is the favorite, and he should be.
In the co-main event, Neil Magny taking on Eric Silva on short notice. And I know a lot of people out there say, well, this is a tough task for Neil Magny to take this fight on short notice. Conversely, for the Brazilian, he was getting ready to take on an American wrestler. How much of an adjustment does he have to make to take on this guy who's long and rangy and has that athletic background?
One of the things you mentioned about Holloway is his confidence, how real it is, and how important that is. We see that from Conor McGregor and Ronda Rousey on down, the importance of confidence. With Eric Silva, you got to wonder if his confidence is there. Has it been shaken? He's had a couple of tough losses. There was a lot of hype on him out of Brazil, and it was very warranted based on skill. But when you lose a couple of fights intermittently, Dong Young Kim was a really rough one for him. Where's his confidence at? It better be high, because he has to get, like you mentioned, inside that range. We saw Magny at the hotel. I've never seen him in person before. You see how long his physiology, how long his biology is. You have to get in on him, and to do that, you have to have a lot of confidence, because you have to get inside the fire. That's going to be the game. If Eric Silva can't get in there in the first 5, 6, 7 minutes, he's going to lose this fight.
Do you anticipate that Eric Silva is going to change up his game plan? Because right now, the reason why he was so highly ranked is because he had that risky style. He was more than happy to go out and take chances, hoping to entertain the crowd. And obviously, you want to be creative when you step inside of the cage. Do you expect, after suffering those couple of losses, that you say, you know what, I got to reel things back in. I have to have a more conservative, safer approach if I want to get myself into the top 5, or even more importantly, get a crack at the welterweight championship?
You know, that's been going around. The excitement, the MMA exciting gods giveth and they taketh away, you know? And Dong Young Kim, who we mentioned, he had fight of the nights. He had exciting performances. Things got tough, and he went back, and against Berkman, who's also fighting on this card, he played a very smart fight, because that's what some of these guys have to do. It's great to win those bonuses, but you have to win. Evan Dunham recently, this guy had been fight of the night machine. He'd been stand in the middle and go crazy machine, and he faced Pearson. Pearson thought he was getting a fight like that. He didn't get a fight like that. Instead, Evan Dunham played the intelligent game. I think it's time for Eric Silva to do that. We love exciting fighters. You love guys who go in there, put their chin down, and go for it. He's got an exciting ground game as well, but he needs to start winning consistently, and to do that against Magny, I think you got to be smart, get to the body, get this thing to the ground.
You talk about exciting fighters. Patrick Cote also on the card, as well as a number of Canadians. We talked to Sam Stout, who says, you know what, he's got to be very, very smart if he wants to keep his mixed martial arts career going. Are there any Canadians on the card that we should keep an eye out for and expect some sort of evolution or see some sort of new wrinkle in their game?
Mark my words, Chad Laprise is going to blow our minds, and on Monday morning we're going to be talking about Chad Laprise.
Remember, all the action goes down on Sunday night from the Saskatoon Center, and you catch the prelims live right here on FN.